Hello, lovely people, and welcome to today's podcast. And I have a man that is incredibly special to me because I have followed him since the first lockdown. And this man has given me hope. He's given me laughter, which so few people were able to do over that period of time. He is a phenomenal functional doctor, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Bradley Campbell. DC, and I'm going to read out the other letter. Well, there are hundreds of letters. So DC, Dr. Chiropractor, and then DABCI. Can you tell us what that stands for, Dr. Campbell?
Yeah, that's a diplomate of the American Board of Chiropractic Internists.
Fantastic. And you have hundreds of other letters, and I think, one of the most qualified functional doctors in the world. And so I'm incredibly grateful to have you on my podcast today. I'd like to start, and I'd like my audience to get to know you a little bit. I know you had quite a traumatic accident when you were, I think, 9 years old. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit maybe about that accident and what led you into medicine and then functional medicine, please.
Great. Yeah, so when I was in fourth grade, 9 years old in school, I was doing gymnastics outside of school, but my friends and I in the classroom were doing flips off of desks, back flips, front flips, like rolling around, chasing each other. And I did a flip, but I slipped and hit the corner of my head on the corner of a really sharp desk and blacked out, ended up in the nurse's office. I actually blacked out on my way down the stairs to the nurse's office, ended up in the hospital. And for 9 months afterwards, I lost half of my IQ and most of my short-term memory,
Wow.
and went to over 20 different doctors, the best of the best in Chicago, which has some of the best teaching universities and med schools, and no one could figure out what was wrong. I had CAT scans, MRIs, EEGs, sleep studies, multiple psych evals, all kinds of stuff. Went through the whole conventional system, and they basically said, "We're sorry, your kid is just really messed up. We don't know what's going on, or what to do. And he might get better on his own. He might just be this way forever."
Wow.
And luckily, my mom got hit by a car, and her
Oh, that's
friend,
lucky.
that's a side note, right? So luckily, she was hit by a car and she was actually okay. And similar to my incident, her health improved because of the getting hit by this drunk truck driver, because she was told about a healer who was a chiropractor who helped her through that injury and then inspired her to be healthier than she was before that accident. So she had been going to this chiropractor for a few months. And then while I was going through my issues, and I was sick from school one day, so I was tagging along with her, and she said, "You know what? I never thought about it, but could you look at my son? Because he's had this horrible concussion. He's having major issues and no one can figure out what's wrong. Do you think you could possibly help?" He's like, "Sure, I'll take a look." He like took time away from his lunch break to take a look at me. And he was the first person in 9 months who just touched my head, right? Like you think that'd be the first thing that anybody would do. But I hit in the front, and opposite of where I hit, I had a dent in my skull the size of a golf ball. And you can
Oh my
actually
God.
see it. You can see it on the CT scan, which I still have. But modern Western medicine doesn't acknowledge that the skull bones move at all. They fuse when you're about 18 to 22 years old. But we know that little children can have major deformities in their skull, but you can still have some deformities, and the sutures can still press inwards and mess up your cerebrospinal fluid flow. And basically, it was putting pressure on my skull, which was in not allowing my brain the proper nutrition it needed to think, heal, repair, et cetera, et cetera. So he basically did soft tissue adjusting. He pulled the skull back apart, took the pressure off of my brain. And within an hour, I was laughing for the first time. My personality came back. My IQ jumped up higher than it was before. And it was just a miraculous resolution of symptoms.
Oh my God, what a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's just, it was such a, well, it's obviously not simple to be a great osteopath. It's a lot of hard work, but it astonishes me that Western medicine don't look at these. And is that what inspired you to become a doctor?
Yes. Yeah, it was almost entirely that. And I was also thinking about becoming a doctor of saxophone. And I was in a master's degree to teach collegiate level saxophone performance. And I wanted to help injured musicians. And I realized they couldn't do surgery, they couldn't stop working, they really didn't want to do drugs because it would affect their mental clarity during performances. So the chiropractor who helped me as a kid kind of inspired me to go into natural healing to help injured musicians. And then when I got into school, I realized that musicians have way more than just structural issues. They have emotional issues, they have inflammatory issues and nutritional issues and sleep issues and stress issues and all the other things. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole when I went to the chiropractic and naturopathic school and learned everything I possibly could. That's why I was working on finishing 10 degrees before the pandemic. That's why I've taken over 200 different seminars and techniques and trainings, is because I just like loved it. I'm always been super curious. And so I've learned stuff from working on finishing extra degrees in nutrition and neurology and internal medicine, homeopathy, functional neurology, and more. Because for me, it's just whatever was going to get results for people. Like whatever is actually going to make people better is what I want to do, because that's what happened for me. I didn't care that he was a chiropractor, that the medical doctors didn't believe that I got better in an hour. I didn't care that he was a black sheep of the medical community. I just wanted to get people better, right?